I think it's so awesome that you guys are all from Enumclaw. Like, that's never happened to me before. Everybody give it up for Enumclaw. Woo-hoo, yeah, that's what I told me. Okay, by a show of hands, how many of you are currently doing color in the salon? Awesome, great. Okay, by a show of hands, how many of you are doing lots of color blending because fall's coming? Awesome, great. Okay, so thank you for giving up your Monday for being here today. My name is Leanne. How many of you have taken a class from me before? Nobody? Okay, good. All newbies. I'm just going to give you a little info on myself. I've been doing hair for over 20 years, and I've done everything in the salon. I started as an associate. I was a receptionist. I was an employee. I owned a lease salon with a partner for like 10 years. And I've been a leaser behind the chair, and I switched to employee-based about 6 years ago. Actually, October 1st is our 6-year anniversary. I started with 1 employee, and I have 12. So I worked for Redken in my 20s and left after my second child. It was like a whole new world to me when I got hired by Redken. There were so many different things that I learned to do that I wasn't doing in the salon, and things that I wasn't taught. Anyway, I have 4 kids, and once I went employee-based 6 years ago, I realized how much I missed, like, the mentoring and the coaching and the growing of people and like the team environment. So I got recertified 3 years ago. So I've been back in salons teaching. Actually, my favorite thing to do is to really allow people to see the why behind something and push themselves to the next level. So it's not just all color. Like, I've really gotten into the business point and like pushing people past their comfort zone and how to make more money super easily. How's that sound to people? How many of you want to make more money? Awesome, great. Okay, so before we get started, what I'd love to do though, because this is a lot of like talking demo today, I also don't want to waste my time giving you guys anything that you don't really need. You guys all look amazing. You look like you're totally on top of it, hairdressers. So I just want to find out a little bit, like, why'd you sign up for this class? Like, what are your expectations? What do you want to get out of our next 3 hours? Don't anybody yell too soon.
Maybe some new techniques.
Oops, T-A-C-I-O-N-S. Okay, new techniques. Let's dive deeper. Like, when you say new techniques, what do you mean?
If there's a new version of color melting or whatever.
Okay, great. Something new. What else?
I do a blended like root drop.
How to do a blended root drop?
Yeah.
Okay. May I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Are you already doing what would be considered a root drop?
Yeah.
Okay, so is it that maybe you're not loving your outcome?
I just feel like it takes so much longer. Like after the process that I've been doing it would be like, say a partial foil, then going back in with, the shades, dropping the root. It just feels like it takes forever. So I guess that would be under technique as well, but.
Time management?
Yes.
Kind of?
Yeah. I think there
okay.
could be a way I could be doing it different.
We'll talk about that as well too, but we'll talk about the methods, okay? Thank you for that. What else? How many of you are Redken users? Like, this is a Redken class, but people from other lines just take a class.
I guess for me, I would like to know a little bit more about like formulations. I mean, I have my own like go-to type stuff, but I feel like it would always be helpful to like have other ones that I haven't tried before.
Awesome, great, thank you for that. Anybody else? Do we have any struggles? Like, besides time management, I feel like every hairdresser has a time management problem. Don't worry, it's not just you, it's myself.
Well, that would go through something new. You know how you do the same thing over and over, and I want to learn how to push myself beyond. And
Okay, great,
And kind of how
awesome.
to market things toward 2 points to try something new maybe.
Okay,
Like, hey,
marketing,
something new for sure.
verbiage,
Yeah.
okay, great. Anything else?
Maybe what you should be charging.
Oh, that's always a big topic that comes up. And would you agree that it's gonna be a little bit different depending on like your experience level as a stylist, how often you're actually performing that service? Because would you agree that it really takes 10,000 hours to become a master at anything, right? So 10,000 hours on one thing. So that's 10,000 hours at just shadowing a root. 10,000 hours at just doing the same balayage method. Not a new one, but the same one, right? So price is gonna be relative based on your level of experience and also our demographics, right? Okay. Cool, I think this is pretty good. Does anybody else have anything they just are dying to make sure we touch on today?
I'm sure it'll come up.
Okay, no big deal.
Yeah.
And you guys, I'm totally, like, I want you to know, I literally work behind the chair for 12-hour days. So I work in the salon just like you. I do this as well. I also have to do like the numbers game, the ordering, the cleaning of the salon. Like, I wear multiple hats, so I'm totally like on your level. I'm not any better than you. I just probably maybe dive a little deeper into color because I have to, because of what I do. Cool? Okay, so I love how you guys said, or how we talked about a new method, right? So would you agree, if you look around, we all kind of look a little bit different, right? We all have our own personal style. We have our own way of doing things, and that style or the method that we have creates our outcome, right? Our outcome meaning like the end result on a client, right? And usually our method is learned from our habits, right? I love what you said over here, like, I do it and I do it the same way all the time. Well, what happens if we do it the same way all the time? We always get the same what?
Results.
The same outcome and the same results, right? So sometimes if we want it to be a little bit different, we have to change our method, right? Now, with that being said, we never have enough what in the salon? Time, right? So would you agree that sometimes it's really scary to change your method, right? Because you don't wanna make a mistake and you don't wanna go backwards and be behind the rest of the day, right? But if you never try that new method, you're not gonna get a different outcome. So today, like, this is our playing ground, and since it's not a hands-on class, but it's gonna be a hands-in class. I love when people like try things, touch it, feel it. I'm a learner that I'm a do-see-do. Like, I need to see you do it, then I need to try it, then I need you to coach me, and then I'm gonna try it again. That's how I learn. If I watch a video, I kinda think I have it, but there's nobody talking to me or coaching me through it. So like today I'm gonna do a few things and I want you guys to all try it as well. How do you feel about that? Good? Okay, so when we try something new, what could happen?
You do it wrong.
Yeah, you could do it wrong. We could have an unexpected result, but what else could happen?
We could surprise ourselves.
And nail it, right? But if we do have an unexpected result, usually, do you feel like you learn if you've made a mistake?
Yes.
Yes, right? Because you own it. So today, if something happens or we've been doing something that maybe isn't gonna get us the result we want as quick, like, just own up, like raise your hand and say, oh my gosh, I've been doing it this way for so long. I'm gonna try it now this way and maybe I'll shed 20 minutes off my schedule. How's that sound? Okay, so learning takes a lot of energy, right? So if I sat up here and talked the whole time and you guys just sat there, it'd be really boring. So we're probably gonna get up, we're gonna take a few field trips out on the floor. There's also pen, paper, and your biggest learning tool now is what? Your phone, right? So take lots of pictures. If there's something in the book that you haven't seen before and you wish you had that resource in the salon, take a picture of it. That way you always have it to go back to. And with that being said, we also have to celebrate our wins. So if there's something that you get today that's amazing, like we're gonna shout out, we're gonna do some high fives. Cool? Yeah, are you guys ready to take the blur journey? Okay, great. So you guys are all Redken users, right? Do most of you know like the history or the backbones
No.
behind it? No? Okay. So I'm gonna give you like a quick blurb, okay? So I'll scroll through some slides. Redken, well, first of all, we're really into education, okay? So it doesn't matter if you took a class here, or you took a class in Snohomish, or you took a class at the Redken Exchange, you're gonna get a lot of the same info. And the reason is because we try to do the same message everywhere, but we all have different styles, right? But Redken is based on principles. So the real why behind something, like an example would be, you know, if I pick this piece of candy up and I dropped it, what's gonna happen? It's gonna fall, right? Well, why does it fall? Yeah, because gravity pulls it to the floor. So when you're taking a haircutting class, we talk a lot about principles like elevation over direction. Like these are things that don't change. When we talk about color, we're very principally based as well. So we work a lot with the color wheel and the undertones of the hair. And if you can remember those things, they're gonna make your life so much easier. The problem is, as hairdressers, we get really busy and we're doing something and we go to mix a formula, and how do we mix our color? What do we mix our color based on? Do you do it a lot based on like remembering what it looked like on a client? Like, oh, I really like 4NW, it's so pretty. Oh my gosh, 6R is gonna be the most beautiful red on her, right? Because you used it before and it looks really good. So a lot of times we base our thoughts or our ideas on memory instead of always doing 100% consultation on the client. Like, what level are they? How much gray do they have? Are they gonna lift if I put 20 volume on them? Are they a level 4 and I put 20 volume and now I'm taking them to a 5.5 and now the undertone exposed is red and they don't want red. They want a nice rich chocolate brown with no warmth. So when I talk about principles, we're very principally based, so we work a lot with undertones and the color wheel. Cool? So long ago, how Redken started was a lady named Paula Kent. She had like skin problems, and so she wanted to create something that was pH balanced for her hair and her skin. And so she got together with this guy named Jerry Redding, and they created like their first product in a bathtub. And Redken came out with 3 years ago. And ever since then, they've just kept growing and growing and growing. The why behind it is that we try to keep everything as pH balanced to your hair as possible, or your skin as possible, okay? And the reason is that way we're keeping the cuticle closed and we're keeping healthy, beautiful, shiny hair. That's Redken's main goal. Do they have the most luxury products out there? No, not at all. And would you agree that sometimes people may have a sensitivity to certain things that are in their products? Yes. But the one thing about them is they're very principally based. That's how they formulate everything. And it is very affordable to the average consumer, right? So most of us are gonna carry in our salons, and this is like a money thing, we're gonna carry like a higher based product, right? So like our sister company is Pureology or L'Oreal, and then Redken's right in the middle, and then you may find something that's a little bit less, right? So we try to make it as affordable as possible to everyone. Cool? Does that give you a little history? Okay, so let's talk about some things with our clients, okay? So, this says consultation vision card, so I'm gonna scroll up to, oh, maybe I'm going to find it on here for you guys. This is something that we talk about in every single class, and when you look at it, you're like, oh my gosh, it's kind of boring, okay? Let's see if I can rotate it so you guys can see. But these are things that before we can have the most amazing color outcome, these are things we have to talk about with our client. And this is true all over the board. Us as hairdressers are kind of slacking on this. And what I'm finding just from doing research and being other salons, is that clients are looking for this. They want you to be 100% honest with them. If their blonde isn't gonna be as bright today as they asked for, they wanna know why. Like, did you tell them that they needed to come in with clean, dry hair? Did you tell them that you have to prep their hair before you started today because it's in such bad condition? These are all the types of things that consumers are looking for, and a lot of it is because what do they see on social media?
Perfection.
They do, right? They see perfect looks, but they also are seeing more hairdressers telling stories, right? So they're telling the journey from the start to the end. YouTube is huge, right? So as hairdressers, if you really want to excel, I would say start with the consultation. So what we're gonna do is, I'm gonna put you in groups of just 2, so it'll be 4 and 5. And there's gonna be a flip chart over there and a flip chart over here. And what I want you guys to do is take these books, and I got an old one for myself, so I might be off on the page, cause that one's 2019. Oh no, I grabbed the same one too. And I want you guys to turn to page 148. And in your groups, I'm gonna give you about 3 minutes. What I want you guys to do is talk about some of your services that either Redken has or that you're currently using. And what are some of the things you're doing to prepare or pre-treat your client before your service? And what I want you guys to do is, there's a flip chart over here and one over here. I'm gonna give you a pen. After you guys have your little discussion, I want you guys to write your stories. What you're gonna use to prepare your client's hair before a color service, before you even start them. Cool? Any questions? Okay. And if you guys gotta like back up and huddle up so you're closer, go for it. You could be a scribe, you can be a scribe. Doesn't have to be pretty.
You guys, I feel like I'm in school again.
Yay!
Well, I just graduated in May
Oh,
from
well,
Summit, so I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been through this book so many times.
So you should be with it.
Then you should be
Yeah.
here.
No, this is like perfectly.
Yeah,
You're
see?
like, we're like,
Have it our team.
fresh hair. So basically what it is you'll leave these on here for like 10 minutes and then you spray whatever pH spray you need, so whether it's for like chemical damage or for physical damage, so it's like actual damage versus chemical damage. And then you'll leave those on for I think it's like 5 to 10 minutes, then you rinse them out. Yeah, so it's kind of like the mouth stuff, but they're just for.
I was gonna say, I've used the Malibu before.
Exactly, a lot of blondes, that, and then also, I know that with Redken, there's a lot of things about protein versus like non, like not over poisonizing the hair versus, cause I think the extreme has a lot of like protein in it, and so it's not always the best to overuse it, so it just really depends on the hair.
Yeah.
Because they make certain products at home versus if they're not, there's a lot of, so yeah. Say it's like a heavy foil, and they're not doing it right. Treatments on it, I would say these. Like prep that. Are we creating our own clients, like?
Yeah, you're just, we wanna make sure like that you know some of the things that we have and like how to really start a service so that you can get those looks that are perfection.
Okay.
Because as hairdressers, to be honest, we don't schedule ourselves enough time. And so this class is made up of, I'm gonna give you some ideas, but I think the biggest thing, most of the time everybody wants new techniques, but most of the time the reason the color isn't coming out the way that we wanted is because we didn't do the steps we needed to do. So, just gives you a little idea of some of those treatments.
Like a heavy foil. Because you can mix any of these except for the volume one. You can mix them in any like combination and have the Yeah, because I mean, Usually we use
Oh.
But I know a lot of like when we were in there in some of the service too, because we do like all of them over the course of a couple weeks and then okay, like we're gonna schedule calls in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So we set like one of these a week before and just like
Training, communicating,
And all of this is all extra.
Yeah, you know all the,
Yeah.
So like we're doing a client who have regular experience. I would
That's how
say
you have to take
come in for a
it.
couple weeks, like once a week,
Yeah.
and then do information, and then after like 3 or 4 weeks, and some
And then
circles,
have
then
them-
a big trim, and then we'll go and have like your cover. Yeah, I like
You
writing
have
if we're
to
going like
use
a
it.
book.
Right, so you do it,
Right.
but sometimes there's like an expectation that crazy, and to make those ideas, just make sure they know, because this is.
Very technically, yeah.
But you don't use the time.
so what's that?
Unless you're trying to get it.
Right.
So what is that? If there's already like an expectation, when people come in to know, that's what's happening, that it's not that big a deal. But
Do you guys need more time? Okay, so
I think we're there.
I'm gonna say this is group 1 and this is group 2. So group 1, your flip chart's over here. We would love for you to teach us some of the stuff that you guys talked about.
I feel like I can.
You can start, we'll watch you.
Yeah, okay,
Okay.
go for it.
Okay, here's your flip chart. Take your group.
Right, group.
Okay, so if we're talking about some of the things, how we're gonna prepare or pre-treat the hair, what are some of the things you guys talked about?
Well, we talked about kind of the differences between all of the chemistry systems. So the extreme system has a lot of protein in it.
Awesome.
You don't want to over protonize the hair, obviously. But if we're going for like a blonding service, I really like the extreme because it's gonna add some of the protein that you need for a color service like that. Versus all soft, we're going through a lot of like damage from especially hot tools. I really like that because it's gonna kind of keep those ends together a little bit better, and then also over protonizing it will weigh it down.
Okay, cool. So if we say pre-treatment, right? Some of the
If
things
we're
she
going blondes,
listed.
I would go extreme. If we're just going for a color service without blonding, I'd say all soft.
Okay, cool. So put pre-treat. And then damage, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have extreme. What else do we have that's a pre-treat that is a protein product? That's something that we can retail to the client, but we can also use as a back bar. It's been around for 1 million years.
I don't use Redken, so.
Oh, the cat treatment.
Yes, cat,
I was
okay,
like,
great.
stressing out.
So if you guys haven't used cat, this is the quickest, easiest one to use. It's also a retail, so it's a great product for clients that are doing bleach and tones. It's a product for them to take home, so if they're regularly coming back in, they could use this in the shower. So that if they follow the rules and do it on a weekly basis at home, you most likely will not have to pre-treat them before their next bleach service because they've been treating
Is
themselves.
this like a Olaplex? I don't use Redken.
It's, no, it's a little bit different. So even if you're not a Redken user, there's a difference between the effects of Olaplex. Like normally we don't take enough time to do like an Olaplex treatment first because the second step closes the cuticle all the way back down. So it's the lowest on the pH scale and it has to sit for 10 minutes. This only has to sit for like 2 to 5, and this now only has to sit for about 2 minutes. So if I'm worried about time and I wanna prepare the hair, I wanna use something like this before. The other benefit is I wanna train my clients to come in with their hair prepped, so I don't have to give them any more time, right? Cause I will make more time, or I will make more money on having another client in the chair than just doing a $15 add-on pre-treatment, right? If I need to, I will, but if I can train them, I'd much rather have more time for another client than wasting pre-time on my regular client. Does that make sense? So if you haven't used CAT, it is a protein treatment that they can buy as well. So then there's your retail sale, right? And it's something that you can use on the back bar. So something to take home. So this is a pre-treatment. Good job. All right, now she also talked about Allsoft. So if you aren't a Redken user, she brought up like if they needed moisture, right? So Allsoft is not usually something we use before our pre-service. Normally, because it has avocado oil in it, which then can also get in the way of your color service. So we usually like to use our Allsoft Chem Shots for a post-treatment because people love to feel soft hair, right? So if you put post, now you're gonna put Allsoft. Cool. How'd they do?
So extreme would be more for blondes, and then the color extend would be more for like just a regular color.
Yes, but extreme can actually be for anyone. I'm actually an extreme
Okay,
user.
okay.
And part of it is because I have fine to medium texture hair and I blow dry all the time and I'm a regular color user. So
Okay.
the hair is made up of 80% protein, right? So 80 out of 100 is the most. So it's not usually very likely that we over proteize the hair. I just like the way my hair moves when I use it, and then I rotate other things. But it's the perfect weight for my own hair. The conditioner also has moisture in it now. So it's not just a protein product, it has protein and moisture. But yes, normally we say our blondes or our chemical addicted clients are gonna be on the extreme line. Cool? Okay, the other thing I wanna talk about
Okay, perfect.
before we go in, because I put you guys on the treatments, which is more like preparing the hair pre-treat, but there's something that we didn't talk about as well. So we have pre-art. Has anybody heard of this before? Okay, what do you know?
It's like how you prep the hair kind of before you start your color service too. Like a
Awesome.
clarifying shampoo almost.
Yeah, good. So now, is this a shampoo though?
No.
No. Okay, so this is actually a product that is gonna help like break down the hair a little bit or what's on the surface of the hair, but it doesn't suds. So if you put this on, you rinse the hair first and then this goes on and it sits for 5 minutes. If they have a lot of buildup, like how many of your clients are on well water, right? And like our blondes or our gray haired clients where you can see the yellow start to build up, this is a great pre-product for them. It helps like soften that and start to emulsify it off the hair. But it doesn't suds up. So then we have our clarifying shampoo, which is hair cleansing cream. So before you rinse out the pre-art, the hair cleansing cream is gonna go on top and you're gonna shampoo that together. So if you have a client who is addicted to dry texture spray, root color spray when they need their roots done, and those products actually tend to build up, it might be really great to give them a pre-art treatment and a hair cleansing cream shampoo first. Anybody who has really dirty hair, this is important for our blondes, a lot of times why our lightener isn't getting as far as maybe we want it is because we haven't cleaned the hair first. So if you haven't trained your clients to come in with clean, dry hair, you might wanna quickly shampoo and flash dry them just to remove everything.
I do the exact opposite. I was always told dirtier the better.
Awesome, that's how I was trained by my first boss too. But what is happening with hair color?
I learned something today.
Is it getting healthier or is it getting more damaging? It's getting healthier, right? What's happening to our lighteners?
They're getting safer.
They're getting more gentle, right? Have perms changed? No, I mean, Vector Plus hasn't been reformulated in how many years, right? The chemical in a perm has not changed, but the chemical in hair color is getting healthier and more gentle. And part of that is because people are addicted to changing their hair color and services. So as chemists, they had to give us something that was more gentle. So our product doesn't trash the hair and lighten it mass quick anymore. So we have to be able to give it the ability to work as fast as it can and lighten as much as it wants. Does that make sense? So just think about it. If you had a client that came in or two clients walk in the door and they both have the exact same texture of hair, but one is clean, like her hair is completely clean, and the other one has 3-day-old hair. She uses mousse before she blow dries. She's used dry shampoo in her hair twice, and then she curls it and she uses hairspray to hold her waves. You decide you're gonna highlight them, but you only have 45 minutes, so you better use your flash lift because it lifts up to 8 levels with 40 volume because you only have so long. Who's gonna lift faster and more beautiful? The dirty one or the clean one? She could even go too far, right? With 40 volume. So that's when we talk about like prepare and pre-treat. These are the things that lots of hairdressers aren't doing anymore. And so we're not being able to give the clients.
What's hard is when they come in after work, they have all this product, I mean, that takes an extra half an hour of your time to pre-treat.
Yep. Are you ready for this one?
Yeah.
I totally get you. I have a client and she has in the front of her hair the most resistant gray ever. She can only do the 7 p.m. appointments because she's a single lady, has 2 dogs, so she comes on her way home from work, right? Only 7 p.m. I could not get her front pieces to cover. And I double book, so like I have another client in between. So I don't have time to shampoo her and I don't wanna be there any longer at the end of the night, right? So I just told her, dude, for your color appointment, I don't have time to shampoo you. I'm always gonna double book you because you're a single process and I have 30 minutes in between. I need you to come in with clean, dry hair. And she's like, I have to go to work like that? Like with my gray showing? I'm like, yeah, like part it the other way. I don't have time and it's not covering. Do you want your gray to cover? Yes. I had a conversation with her. So now she comes in and she's like, don't laugh at my style today, but I have no product in my hair. So she does what she needs to do. One, because I had the conversation with her and we talked about it. Yes, like all you have to do is tell them. They want to have cool hair. They want their gray covered. They want to be as blonde as possible. Now, if you have a brand new client walking in the door that was scheduled with you that day, you hopefully gave yourself enough time to prepare their hair, right? They're a brand new client. Give them as much as their appointment allows so that you can fully charge what you need to charge, right? But talk to her up front. So these are some of the things that we have to do. Okay, now it's your guys' turn. What did you come up with?
Oh, I was talking in the same group over here, so I would say
Okay.
exactly everything
Would
she
you charge a
said.
client if you were, I need to shampoo you, and this is an extra part of my time, so do you then
Like a
upcharge for
treat.
that?
Yeah, but I was the worst at that. I felt guilty for it. But now I'm like, why am I feeling guilty when I've already told her that her hair color is not coloring? And then you know the problem? If it doesn't cover all the way, I'm basically creating bands in the hair, right? So now I look like a shitty hairdresser. So I don't wanna look at my work and see it half-assed done. I don't wanna start a balayage in my mind knowing that it should lift 6 levels, but it only lifted 4 because I didn't take the time to shampoo them. So yeah, they get charged.
Okay.
But I mean, it's like a pre-service, so
Yeah.
most people do $10 or $15.
Okay.
And realistically, if you shampoo them really quick, clarify them, and you flash dry them, you should be done within 15 minutes. You're not like paddle brushing them out and giving them a luxury blow dry. The other thing is, now if you have to do that, now you have more of their natural texture as well. So you're able to part the hair really where it naturally would live. Cool?
Would you
Okay.
recommend sending your clients home with those products to do those clients that always come in when build up on their
So hair cleansing cream retails, but
Okay.
Pre-Art does not. It's
Okay.
professional only.
Okay.
This actually is really great hair cleansing cream for kids who get oily, and it's super cheap. I think it's like $16 a bottle. The problem right now is they did a repackaging, so we only have liter sizes. But normally this is like one of our #1 that we sell because it's affordable. So
Okay.
yeah, they could take it home. It's great for people that have well water too. And it's gentle, it's not like drying, so they could use it every day. Where some clarifying shampoos dry out the hair, this doesn't do that.
Okay.
So it's a great product, but for right now, you just have to do retail size.
Will that help with chlorine too?
Yeah. Yep. The other one that also helps with chlorine too, if they have color, is Color Magnetics. It helps remove chlorine from the hair. So that's a great one as well. Okay, so do we feel good so far on prepare, pre-treat? We'll talk about service in a few minutes. We'll talk about post later. We'll come back to these. Let's do, let's get into some good stuff. Why you guys came today. So I brought my phone to make this easier, but I probably should have brought my computer. Okay, do you guys see all these lovely looks? Yeah? Okay, so, and we got some verbiage up here, right? So we're really gonna talk about like, what is the difference? How do we get our clients to know what they're asking for and to be able for them to see the difference? Because would you agree that some clients don't really change their look very much? We get bored as hairdressers, so we may have to move like a shadow route into a blur for fall. Like maybe they had a shadow in the summer because they wanted to be really bright, but maybe in the fall, the only way we could change it is by doing a blur color on them, like extending their root a little farther and changing the tone of their color. Like these are the verbiage that keeps your clients excited and always thinking that they're getting something new. Cool? So I wrote some of it down, but I also want you guys to look at some of these pictures and let's talk about what we think we see in it and what we think that that is. So same thing, group 1 over here, group 2 over here. I want you guys to take 2 minutes as a group and talk about some of these pictures, and then you're gonna come up and say what you think might be a blur, what you think might be a smudge, color melt. Cool? Any questions? Okay, I turn you on music, but then you lose your picture. So I could sing, that'd be bad.
Versus like a full shadow, which I feel like it's going to the bottom. Blend it into the down. Whereas like more and then like a middle would be like a black.
Those two right there are the same. I would think the same. Yeah.
Covering one.
And that would be the shadow.
Okay. Oh, no, it's fine.
Is it right here?
Yep, it's right here.
And then the dark, really pretty.
What's the difference between a smudge and a blur?
We're gonna talk about it. We're gonna see what you guys come up with too.
This is all new to me, so.
And what's the really colorful one?
Okay, so group 1, you guys had some questions, but if you just look at it and you see some of those verbiage up there, like, what do you think? Like, talk to me about some of the pictures.
I would take a lot of like, I would depict a shadow based on like what I can actually see, like that creates a shadow in the hair, so like that top first picture,
This one?
yes.
Okay.
I would say that because it creates a shadow, same with that.
The My Calendar one, that looks like a shadow to me.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I would
Or a
consider
blur,
that.
what is
Yeah.
that?
Blur.
I mean, what is
Or-
that?
yeah, I think that looks really
Kind of
good.
melts right in.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
And what's the rainbow?
This would be like a color melt.
Because
Because
that
it
would be my definition, 'cause
It's
that
like
looks.
one going into another, going into another, into another. Right? So why we kind of do this though is because do we all see it exactly the same?
Not even.
Would this be a melt
No.
too? Or what would that be?
This would be a little more, in my opinion, like a blur with a shadow.
Okay.
or a slight smudge. Because
Blur and
this is
smudge.
blended.
I mean, or
Yeah, so typically we talk about where a blur or a melt is gonna be more than one color, right? But there's different degrees of the depth that we put it in. So I'm gonna give you just a little quick visual. A lot of this stuff, for it to look seamless or flawless, would you agree we have to do it in more than one step?
yes.
Yeah. Would you agree that color services are taking longer?
Yes.
Would you agree that a lot of hairdressers are having a hard time with the length of color services? Yeah. So if we want it to look flawless or seamless, we have to take separate steps doing things. Does that make sense? So our color services are gonna take longer. Clients aren't gonna be double booked as much when we're doing more fashion colors, right? Or things that are very popular. Gone are the days when we can double book those services. Like, they need our time and they need our attention. But with that being said, services are also costing more, right? Us hairdressers can't shortchange ourselves because of what the client is asking for. Like, if they want a service that looks like a lot of these, which these are beautiful, right? But they also are gonna take more than one step. So the client has to know that this is a double or a triple process, which means that it's gonna cost you more because you're gonna be in here longer. So if we as hairdressers want our outcome to look like some of these pictures, we have to take the steps to do it the right way. So a lot of times we're seeing what would be like a melt done with multiple colors. So I'm just gonna take City Beats right now because fashion hair color is actually super in right now. It's like you're either seeing balayage everywhere, right? Still, like different balayage, but you're seeing a lot of fashion hair colors, would you agree? And it's not just pink thrown on the hair. They're melts. So it's taking one color, so I'm gonna start with my dark color first. It's taking one color, right, which is what we would do to create a shadow or a root. And then it's taking another color. To create a third color.
Is that your smudge?
That would be like a melt. Mm-hmm. So you have one going into another, but it creates a transition. So do we do this with permanent color as well? Yeah, think about like an ombre, right? If we did a traditional ombre, we would start with our darkest color at the scalp. So let's say we used 4NW, and then we would move about 2 levels to the next, like in zone 2, and that would be like 6NW with 30 volume. And then we would move to our ends, right? And then that would be like 9 or 10 with 30 or 40 volume, right? To make a true ombre, which is 3 colors, right? So that we can do with hair color. We can also do it if we've highlighted the hair, we can overlay it with permanent color with 10 volume, and then we can use our demi-permanent with 2 or 3 colors, right? So gone are the days when we're just overlaying or glazing our highlights with one color. I can guarantee almost all of you are putting a smudge at the scalp, right? But then are you mixing a different color for zone 2 and zone 3? Yeah, so it takes more time to perform our color services, right? There's also another way to apply color. Now this gets deeper. If you were taking like a hands-on color technique class, we'd be doing a lot of our colors maybe vertically. So we would apply our glazes. So say I took on one strand of hair dark on the outside, and then maybe I put light in the middle, right? So with this, it allows color to be able to shift, which creates more movement, right? So a lot of our styles that we see right now are on curly hair. Would you agree? So if we're putting color in horizontally all the time, what does that do? Principles of a horizontal line. What happens? What does our eye do?
Side to side.
Yeah, it builds a lot of weight and makes us, like our eye, be drawn side to side. So why wouldn't you, if a client's gonna curl her hair, apply your color vertically instead of horizontally? So when we talk about something new, it's how you actually apply your color to get a different end result. It always goes back to the principles. If we have a client with a like really A-line bob, that's a sharp line, right? So most likely, we're probably gonna apply our color either on a diagonal forward or on a horizontal in the back, right? I'm probably not gonna apply vertically because then that's gonna collapse my shape. Yes?
This is kind of towards it, but what I've found is like sometimes if I have like, it doesn't happen very often, but like let's say a version level 6 that wants like a blonde balayage, sometimes I can create different looks by foil placement.
Yep.
So that I get naturally a shadowed root instead of like, cause I'm putting it in like diagonally, like off the part.
Yep.
So it
Awesome.
automatically kind of drops down, so I guess that's the way that I'm kind of like envisioning.
Already doing it, yep. So like, when we talk about new placement, so many people foil different ways, right? But what are we seeing right now that's the most common? Like what's really popular with a balayage? What's happening around the face?
Money piece.
A money piece, right? Now, if they have to have color put all over, it's not, or if I'm applying zone 1 color, right? And I'm balayaging, is it realistic that I balayage her money pieces if I'm trying to put a zone 1 color on, right? So I'm probably gonna have to put those in foils, right? Plus those are usually lighter and they're the most delicate. And we all know that my highlight color isn't gonna eat through my zone 1 color, right? So what is the best foil placement to keep this soft? Right around the face. Yeah, taking a diagonal section, right? So if she parts right here, if I would've gone in and taken my foil like a traditional method, say it loud and proud. Harsh, right? Now, the other thing is, we all know it's based on principles of head form as well. So if I'm taking a few diagonals right here, my shadow is gonna pop right on top, so I can't go any farther back with my highlights. I have to stop there. So with that being said, if I was doing like a shadow root, I could just take out this whole section right here. Right? So realistically, I'm above the parietal ridge, right? So everything underneath, could I apply super quickly to this? Yeah, and then all I have to do is drop the top and apply my shadow, and it's gonna be in natural fall. I may have to balayage just the ends of these, right? So that's a time thing and knowing what to do. Cool? So how you talked about how you placed your highlight, you can already create a shadow. You can just enhance it by doing the correct sectioning, which takes a little bit longer. But a smudge, we talk about, is 2 colors. So it's just one color going into another color, okay? A shadow is a tickle at the scalp. So another example would be like this blonde, right? You can kind of see a little variation there. That's what we like to say is a shadow. If you have a bleach-in tone and she has just a very little amount of dark on top, that would be a shadow, okay? It's just peeking out behind the highlight. Cool? Now this right here is out farther. So this would be more of an example of what a smudge would be, okay? But it's just one color going into another color. So super easy, right? Now we're gonna talk about how do you get it on the hair and it looks that seamless. Because would you agree that when we have highlighted hair and we go to apply the depth at the top, it gets kind of messy, right? Okay, so let's talk about application and the tools that we're gonna use. If you guys wanna get up, stretch for a second, I'm gonna take a few minutes to section her and then mix up my product. Cool? Or if you have to grab something off the floor.
No, I'm still in the
This one is more like, a melt, because it's an all-over color, but it looks like the highlights are only through like zone 2. And then this one would be more like a melt as well, like this one so far, but the highlights are more prominent, right? So it's almost like
You always.
a melted ombre, I think, right?
All of them kind of take colors that are from each other.
Yes, totally.
It's just like,
Kinda like
the
information on
exactly.
because I.
Yep,
Exactly.
exactly.
Like, I see that could be a combination, but tomorrow.
I am
The girls literally been coming out and they're like, oh, you ever used anything different? I'm like, no.
That's all I use too.
Still.
And then, yeah, I just told her, I'm like, I've been following you.
I have a question before we move on.
What? Yes, it is. Well, I've been doing hair for 20 and it's changed as well.
What? I know, I'm dead serious.
So now, what sponsor are you guys in?
Salon Bonita and HK.
Well, I guess I've never done it for.
Are you guys all leasers?
Yes.
Yeah?
No,
Owner, do you do hair though too?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yes.
cool.
I have a question when you're talking about doing like 3 colors going down the hair shaft and upping the developer. Do you
Uh-huh.
always do that or is it only on?
Natural hair?
Yeah.
Yeah, because, that's a great question, thank you for that. Why would I do that on natural hair? Which, by the way, do we really get natural hair very often? No, but it's the easiest hair to color, and most people spend way too much time doing like a balayage, and then they tone with 3 different shades. I just do 3 different colors, and it lifts itself because of the natural level of hair. If it's realistic, right? But, I mean, if they don't have a true ombre, and it really is a balayage, where it's like dark and then goes into zone 12, like that I can't do that way.
Yeah.
But like a true ombre, I can just do, I start in the back and I take small sections and I use foil to separate. Sometimes I can get away with plastic and I just work my way up the head in each section.
Okay.
So it's zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, and then I just blur them with a brush.
And you said
Great
like, for
question.
example, like 4 with 26 with 30 and then 9 or whatever, like you're saying?
Yeah, or like, a lot of times I feel most people that want an ombre come in with like level 4 or 5 hair. I might
Go
just use
lighter.
10 volume on their scalp,
Yeah.
so that I don't get a lot of warmth. Or I could use Shades EQ at the top and then move into permanent color. That way I'm just depositing color.
Semi-permanent at the roots and then.
Yep.
Yeah.
But ever since color gels got reformulated, I use a lot of color gels with 10 volume now. It lasts longer, I feel like it's a little bit richer.
It doesn't go brassy.
Yeah, it doesn't go brassy, that's great.
So, do you think that, like, I don't use Redken personally for like my main color line, I really like the shades and stuff like that, because it was so warm to me. Do you think it's based on developer choice, or would you say that it's naturally a warmer color line regardless?
Okay, are you guys, let's go take a field trip really quick.
I feel like Jensen.
I love that question, thank you for that. And believe me, remember, I owned a salon before I was an employee salon, so I come around like every color.
Oh, I kinda like gels.
I do too.
And right? Like, you have so many choices with color gel, or with Redken. So I also think that if somebody gives you so many choices, there's gotta be a why behind it, right? So this is me being Okay, I'm doing this a little bit backwards today because I feel like you guys wanna know a little more on like smudge and shadow. So I'm gonna go right to just using these fashion colors as more of a visual. Okay, so remember I said brushes are muy importante, right? So how many of you use a short bristle brush?
Or like a root touch on what?
Yeah. Okay, so now if I'm doing like a peekaboo or a shadow, do you think it's important that I use a short bristle brush?
Yes.
Yes, right? Has anybody seen, I mean, there's millions of manufacturers that make lots of things, but has anybody seen one of these?
Yes.
Okay, this is an edge brush. Are you using this for your root shadow? Okay, the other thing is are most of you shadowing after you've highlighted the hair?
Yes.
Okay, so what are you using as your shadow? Permanent color, Shades EQ? Okay, Shades EQ, great, awesome. Are you putting that on wet hair at the shampoo bowl?
Yes.
Oh, great. Okay, I heard a few things. All right, so who's a yes? You're putting it on wet hair.
Well, towel dried.
Great, awesome, cool, okay. And how many of you are taking them back to the chair and drying their hair at least 80% before you do your root drop? Or your shadow? No one, awesome, so good. Not, just kidding. Okay, how many of you know that Shades EQ is formulated to go on dry hair? Okay, some people, right? But yes, it is. So let's talk about this because this is most of the problem. Why our shadows don't look like real shadows, and why when you walk in and see your client in the grocery store in a week and a half, their shadow is no longer a shadow. Does that happen to anyone? Okay. Before I really talk about the why, let's talk about a sponge. Okay. My kid spilled water on the counter. I have two sponges, a brand new one, and then I have a wet one that's already there. What happens to the sponge when I go to clean up the water on the counter with the already wet sponge?
Can't absorb anymore.
Wait, what?
Can't absorb it anymore.
Can't absorb
What?
It's full.
Oh, it's full. Oh my gosh. Okay. Now, what about the dry sponge? What happens to it?
Sucks it all in.
Does it suck it all up right away?
No.
How come? What does the sponge feel like?
Hard.
Why is it hard?
Hasn't been activated yet.
Is it porous? Yeah.
What?
It's porous? No. Okay. So I just spent all this time doing this amazing highlight, and actually I had to do 10,000 foil packets because they want it so blonde that I can't balayage
Like a
it.
bleach and tone
Yeah,
in foil.
a bleach and tone in foils basically, but now they want a shadow root, okay? So I shampooed them and now I'm gonna shadow them at the shampoo bowl. Did you cap them first? Or extreme treatment them? No, okay, so your hair is so porous, it's not gonna pick up and be even, right? So my shadow's not gonna look perfect like the picture. The other thing is, how do you put the shadow exactly where it's supposed to live if you don't have the hair in natural fall? So I'm gonna tell you, do you wanna make yourself a better hairdresser and have a new outcome? Then you gotta change your method, okay? If all they cared about was just a little bit of a tonal difference, I don't care, tone them at the bowl, right? It's not gonna take you any more time, but you figured that out in the consultation. But if they came in and in the consultation you found out that the favorite part of that look was that root, okay? So you have to put that back in, and you can't do it by putting it on wet hair. So let's today make an agreement. If we wanna change the look of our shadow, we need to take the client back to the chair and flash dry them at least 80%, okay? Not 100%, but 80%. So we're gonna pretend she's 80% because I just highlighted her. And now I have to put her in her 4 quadrants of natural fall. Natural fall, finding the highest point of the head, right? So the highest point of the head, where my comb leaves the head, that's gonna separate my front quadrants, okay? That way I know all the hair that they're gonna pull in front of their ears, or in front of their shoulders, because these are shoulders, will be in that section, right? Because maybe I have to take, maybe my smudge needs to come out all the way down here because they need to see the depth in front of their shoulders and then the blonde. Does that make sense? Okay, so we also have to section, so we put the hair in the proper location where it lives. Now we have to make sure we use our little brushes. So I'm gonna demo just with these fashion colors so that you guys can see. There's a few different ways we could do it. If we went in horizontally, which is traditionally, now am I starting in the back? Yeah, why am I gonna start in the back?
So the hair.
Well, it gets darker, which is more natural.
Lays better.
Say it loud and proud.
Lays better.
Lays better, right? And it stays out of their face, right? I wanna keep her comfortable. So I'm gonna use my short bristle brush. I'm taking like a 1/4 inch to maybe a 1/2 inch, depending on the texture of hair, inch of parting. I'm gonna get just a little bit of my color, and I'm gonna elevate my section first, and I'm gonna just lightly tap that. Now I'm gonna bring it back down, grab a little more, and I'm gonna lightly tap that. Okay? Now I take my next section. Now what if she was bleached? What should I be doing in between?
Putting something between it so it doesn't get on
Awesome, great, give her a high five for me.
it.
Yes, so what are some of our things we can be using?
Plastic.
Plastic, right? We could be using foil. Foil's a little bit heavier. Now you mesh, right? The problem with mesh for this method is you can't really see through it. So you wanna be able to see your product, same with foil, so plastic is usually our best bet. Now, what I'm elevating again, right? Because I wanna lightly tap the underneath of that section, okay? Now I'm gonna drop it down. Now, I usually want something in between because I don't want the pressure and I don't wanna get too heavy-handed. Also, where's my body positioning? On the side, right. How come?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Because if you're standing behind something, you have a tendency to push. If you're on the side, so this is a hot tip. So this is if you're not getting the outcome that you're looking for your shadows and you want them to look better and more blended, these are just some hot tips. So now if I stand from the side, I have the ability to not press so hard. Now something else that you may see is, can anybody tell what my parting is? Yeah, it's a slight diagonal, right? So what does that create for me? Oh, my clip's gonna break. I hate when that happens. Don't have another one on there, so we'll still
Could
do
you
it.
use sandpapers?
I would just say
Simply.
more blend.
You mean to separate it?
Yeah.
Actually, I've never tried that, but I do, like on resistant hair,
Because
put the
they're
end paper
small.
on the side, you probably can, and you can see through that as well. I like that idea, I might try that.
I was thinking.
The
Have you seen that with
the
color?
reason I take a diagonal, you guys, is because it creates a softer line, right? So I don't want them to look like they have a line throughout their head, right?
Yeah.
So, and this is, I'm just gonna say this, so there's a mom on the soccer team and she goes to a fellow hairdresser, and I love this hairdresser as well. Like, her salon is great. They've been friends forever. Every time she gets her shadow put in and I stand behind her at soccer, I'm always like, why is that so straight? Like, she does a horizontal placement, so it doesn't vary. The other reason is what do we notice happens a lot when we're doing a balayage? Not that one, because that one's too edgy, but what happens in the crown? We like it to drop just below, right? And then the highlight spills out from there. So if I set myself up at the beginning with a diagonal line, I am already gonna have that shape on both sides. So see, the timing is easier and I don't have to worry about having like a blend because I'm already creating a soft line from the beginning. Now I also, if you want this to go out a little farther and make sure it's a little more blended, I'm gonna switch to my edge brush now. Oops, let me use my edge brush. So I can just take this, dip it in my bowl, and I can feather that out as well. So now because of the bristles, do you notice how this tipped out a little bit farther in some areas? So now which is gonna give me a little more length and a little more movement? A brush like this or a brush like this? Right? So it all is based on what you want your outcome to be, right? So think about, our tools are important. Lots of people don't think about it, but these are important for our end result. Now, I'm gonna move this way really quick. I'm gonna go vertically now. So if I want more length, I can also apply my root going vertically, okay? Or if the client is gonna put a lot of wave in their hair, I might want the movement to go vertically instead of horizontally. Now, would you agree this method is gonna be more challenging? Yeah, right, because it's a little uncomfortable, one, because we haven't done it, and body positioning. If I'm going vertically, I usually wind up using a longer bristle brush, just because I feel like I can get more product pushed out that way. Does that make sense? Okay, so this one's easy. I'm gonna switch to, actually I'll just ink it to be consistent. So I still will part it down the middle, and I'm gonna start working my way one side that way, and then I can bring the hair back and then move the opposite direction. Does that make sense? So I would be taking my vertical parting, clip this out of the way with my broken clip. I do not have so many today. Now watch my body positioning when I do this. So I already outlined my section, right? So I'm gonna grab a little more product. And now I'm gonna just fold the hair over, but where am I standing? I'm standing to the side, right? And I'm coming from the top. Whereas body positioning, it would be harder for me to come this way, right? So now I'm a lefty, so I'm probably doing it the opposite way you guys would, but you wanna stand so that you're open to the section. It's kind of like balayaging, right? If we stand right behind our section, we can't sweep. So we can apply vertically to have more length put in this.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
Would you typically start by doing horizontal like you did and then start going vertical like this, or you're just showing us both ways?
It's both techniques, but I might do either one. Like, would you agree this is probably faster?
Yeah.
And in the nape area, would you agree this is probably easier?
Yeah.
But now this is an important area of the head, right? So I'd probably switch vertically here. It's also a little bit faster to do it this way, right? Versus horizontal. So I think it's uncomfortable because we don't do it, but I personally think it's a little bit faster. The other thing is I actually apply color when I'm doing a zone 1 color, moving like on a hexagonal kind of, like vertical diagonal instead of straight across. So I'm faster this way. The other thing I like about it, which I'll show you guys in a second when I grab the second color, I like how my sections are already basically outlined for me if I'm gonna do a zone 2 color. So like they're standing, I can pull them apart this way and start working down the hair faster. Does that make sense? So my goal for you today is just to have some new techniques to take behind the chair that even though it may take you longer at first, this may be time savers in the end. Like getting the hang of it may take a minute, but once you start doing it, it becomes way faster. So now I'm on the corner, right? So now I just would connect my dots. Now, for me personally, let's just hypothetically pretend I finished the whole thing. I'd grab a dark comb, not a white comb, and I would just resection back through, and now I would start my zone 2 color. So now, do you guys notice, what am I leaving in between?
Space, hair.
Is it a lot of space?
In some sections more than others.
Yeah, right? So, if the section is too wide, I always want a slight amount because now I'm gonna blur them together. But if the section is too wide and you don't want that much gap, take a more narrow section, okay? And then hot tip, I like using a brush if I need a lot of saturation, cause I have more control. I feel like when I use a bowl, a bottle, I don't feel like I'm getting the product all the way through. Does that make sense? So like, see how much product I have? So I start away first, but I'm literally like making X's all the way down. How do you guys feel? Good? Okay, so now, remember how I said Redken likes principles? So, if I'm taking vertical sections, even though I'm saturating it all the way through, the color is still gonna fall more vertically versus horizontally, okay? So I know they seem silly sometimes, but it's actually a principle. Like, in anything you're building or drawing, a vertical line is gonna lead your eye up and down. A horizontal line is gonna lead your eye side to side, and a diagonal line is gonna soften or round a shape. Cool? So that's a hot tip when you're working on like a smudge, a melt, or a blur. Cool? Okay, I'm gonna take 3 minutes, and what I want you guys to do is, in your groups, just talk about some of the things that were an aha, and something that you feel like you'll be able to take back to the salon and you wanna try. I'm gonna wash my hands.
Yeah, I was just gonna say,
Cause I've never really like
kind of wanted.
right, like on the right, I have one of these go back in between.
That was kind of cool, not just switched it.
Yeah.
Going to the side.
Yeah.
But I mean, I feel like some people don't want a shadow root, so I would still probably do some of them.
As well.
It just depends.
The client.
They think that they want this, then they get it, and then it lasts until their next time that they got their hair done, and they'd be pissed, so I would much rather have it fall out in a week.
Yes.
Because then I'm gonna get a text message, yeah, I don't like this at all, it's too dark. Even though it's natural like mine.
But I feel like we know that was science.
Yeah,
when we're doing
yeah.
it, and then you're just like, I know you're gonna
I'm saying
hate this,
that's
but we'll
why
do it anyway.
That's why you get.
Cause this is the picture that you got me.
This is what I want to look like.
Do you remember that one time, Colin, you had that one shadow root on me, that then we could not ever take out? I had an orange band that just like, every time you'd see it
It's
go
gone
farther
down,
and
though.
farther down, and we were like, okay, well, we put 10,000 foils through that, and we can still see it.
Damn it.
So you learned something,
Oh, yeah.
what not to do, what?
Paige
does not like permanent dark green.
No, we don't like, what did we put on it, like a 4N?
No, it was a 5.
It was so, okay.
First we started with a 6, but it didn't like
Oh
stay.
yeah, then we
And
just did it
she's
again
like,
a few weeks
okay.
later, and then
I
it
need
really
more.
stuck. And then I was like,
It was
oh.
up in my head.
I feel like my hair is
But it was a dark
constantly
root.
guinea pig. We're just like, we'll just try it out. And I'm like, oh, we keep chopping my hair off because our ideas keep not working out for
And
you.
that's why we need that new
That's
V
why I
thing
have
out there,
so
right?
much fake hair. 'Cause my mouth keeps getting chopped off. So I'll learn on somebody's head.
Have you been trying that pH thing at the, I've been doing that before my.
I only used it on one time, but I think I probably will get some.
I just ordered 2 bottles. I have a ton of it.
Okay.
It's
I
awesome.
should try it.
Yeah, I've only tried it one time,
It's a
because she
cushion,
told me to
it's
try
I'm
it.
doing both these
It's-
toners, so
yeah.
it kinda is making it look more even. Loving it.
Everybody's hair is feeling a lot better afterwards.
What are you guys talking about?
Well, if we don't, if I
We're
don't
using
open
that,
it.
tell me, that, what is it?
The Biolage, the raw acidic milk
Yeah.
stuff.
Been doing that
Actually
before the
really
toners,
like
which
it.
kinda makes it, you know,
even
just
out the
occasionally.
hair, the
Yeah.
porosity,
Yeah, it's
good.
taking better, so,
Oh, I like what you just said, it's what?
taking better, yes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
cause you're filling it back in,
Yes,
yeah.
So doing what we're supposed to be doing.
sorta.
Okay, so are you talking about the toning at the bowl? So I always try to put I put on my Redken hat and then I put on my owner hat and stylist hat. Can shades go on wet hair?
Yes.
Yeah, does it work? Yeah. Oops, is it gonna last as long?
No.
No, right?
I heard on wet hair, it's, every minute is a shampoo that it can take out, so if you leave it on 5 minutes, it's like 5 shampoos.
That's great, I haven't heard that one before, but that might be,
20 and then 20 shampoos.
yeah, so that could, I mean, but how many of you actually leave do you leave your client in the bowl for 20
I think
minutes?
it depends, like, let's say if someone's just getting like a toner and a haircut, I would probably do, like, shampoo them first, put it on wet, put them under heat for like 10, 15, 20 minutes, and then shampoo them.
Okay, awesome, I love it, so, I would love for you guys to take a shades class, they're super fun. You know why? Cause people don't know what's in them, and half the time they play the guessing game, or they like wash it off cause they think it's going too dark. But here's the real nitty gritty of it, and this is how I teach too. So, if you've highlighted somebody and all you need to do is like kiss the color and you wanna close down the cuticle, towel dry them really good and tone at the bowl. But if you need to correct, enhance, or you're doing like a specialty work, you need to treat them, rinse them, dry them at least, depending on the texture of the hair, anywhere from 50 to 100%, right? So that's how I teach, that's what we do in the salon. People tone at the bowl all day long, people are always gonna tone at the bowl, like, it is what it is, I tone at the bowl, but I know that I also have that conversation with my client. Like, would you agree that some people are always in a hurry? They don't have a lot of time, right? So they may be fine coming in like a few more visits for another glaze, right? And you just talk to them at first, like, do you love the way your hair looks when you leave? Like, you love that tone, right? Yes, but I hate what it looks like in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Well, because we don't tone you on dry hair, which would take X, Y, and Z more time, I'd love for you to just come in for a toner in like 3 weeks. Some people, would you agree, depending on their color service, you could tone them at the bowl, you could set them up for toners, like 2 appointments in between. Like, we have clients that do that all the time. They just come in for their toner, they feel like they're paying less, but really they're not. They actually are paying more in between. It's time to them, right? Like, for me, I'm busy, so I would much rather pay more today because I need it right now than to have to come back and do something again. So if I gave up my time to be in the chair, like, do it right, I'm gonna pay for it, I'm not coming back. Other people are more like, I don't have that much money and I don't have that much time, right? So then just be 100% honest, that's all they want. They'll do whatever you say as long as you set them up for success. Cool? Okay, so now I know all of you can balayage like no other, right? Is anybody not balayaging? Okay, awesome, ladies. Well, you should take a balayage class, but because I like you, we're gonna do a quick few face framing ones. But what I really want you guys to see, I already did that little mannequin back there. I want you guys to be able to see how much more we're using. I just highlighted around her face really quick, so we're gonna go over her with color gels and Shades EQ, like a color melt. But what I want you to see is, for all of you that are covering a lot of gray hair and you maybe need to increase your service ticket just a little bit, and those people don't really know what a color melt is, this is a super quick technique to get them into it and maybe add a little more value to their service and make yourself a little more money. So say she's just my regular Sue and she comes in every 6 weeks for a root color, she doesn't really like a lot. Hey Sue, you know what would be really cool? I'd love to see a little more movement in your hair. Are you okay if we add a few like highlights around your face today? I don't know, is that gonna take more time? Oh, only about 30 minutes, right? Okay, so quick face framing like we talked about, the money pieces. And this is great on people with dark hair too, and they just maybe want some chocolate, not uber light around their face, or you could take it as far as you want. If you can't see, feel free to get up and move. Now, normally, I don't highlight with freehand, but because I'm gonna do a few balayage pieces, I mixed up freehand. I'm gonna cut these so they're not as long. But just like we talked about, we're gonna take a diagonal section. So for a money piece, I don't wanna go right at those hairline hairs, but I'm gonna go right behind them, okay? That way it's almost like when she pulls it back, it doesn't look like a big strip of color, okay? So if I'm taking a micro stitch, I need to be up super close, right? And that's basically what these highlights are a bunch of micro stitches. That was a little fast. So I'm gonna take my foil. I like to put my lip on the inside. And normally if the hair is really long, you want a long foil, but I tend to cut mine and make sure I put a lot of product because they don't like it that heavy right around their face, normally. So you make sure your foil is really tight. I like to use a narrow, long bristle brush around the face. Now see how thick this is? It's because it's a clay lightener, so it's great for balayaging, but we're gonna multi-purpose it today. So I start away from the scalp first, right? Now I need this to have a soft blend, so I'm just gonna turn my brush vertically and tap into that. Hand under my foil, lots of product. And then remember, ideally a long one is great, but I know my clients usually are sitting there for a while and they're on their phone, some are on their computer. So I'm actually making sure that I am getting the product all the way on that whole section, okay? Still make sure I'm all feathered. I'm gonna fold once, I'm gonna fold twice, then I'm gonna make sure it's all locked in so I have no slippage. And now for my money piece, that first parting, that micro stitch went right to her part. I'm gonna basically foil on top, but my next highlight is not gonna be right to the part. It's gonna start in just a little bit. Why would I do that?
So that you're not getting like a big chunk of blonde like right up in front.
Awesome, great, so you're not getting a big chunk, right? So if I made them be, I'm already going back to back, right? So that makes it be technically like a deeper wave or a deeper weave. Now I'm gonna use a long foil. But if I stagger the next foil in, it gives me that little bit of dark, which helps soften it just a little bit. So now, how far out am I gonna start? About an inch, right? Oh, so much nicer with the long one. So just elevate up a little bit, feather at the root. And now I'm gonna fold once, fold twice. And that should be done. Now, depending on the density of the hair, see how the depth is starting to pop right there? That's what will make this have more reflection or appear a little brighter. If where her hair starts to pop is a little bit farther back, I could probably do one more foil, but here's where you really have to be careful. You can go back to the hairline now, but now you need to just slightly adjust your angle a little bit because you don't want to come out too wide over here. You don't want to start hitting like the parietal ridge area. So I'm just gonna adjust my angle, and now I'm actually gonna weave out the top of that. So I'll have a little bit of hair left out. Does that make sense? it softens it so it doesn't look quite so bold. And usually this is if somebody's a little bit coarser and a little bit thicker right up at their part. Cool? So I'll just do this last one. And then for my newbie balayage, we'll do a money piece on the other side, and I'm gonna have you guys try it. Cool? Sure. Yeah? Okay. Oops. Uh-oh. Okay, how many of you have used freehand before? Just once? Okay, who uses a clay lightener to do balayaging? Okay, awesome. What do you use?
What is it called?
Okay, so let's talk about what's the difference between a clay lightener and like one of our regular lighteners.
It creates a shell on the outside that doesn't bleed on the other stuff.
Awesome, great. So it creates a shell, right? So basically it hardens on the outside and stays moist on the inside. So are clay lighteners usually as strong as an original or a regular lightener? Not normally, right? So if it's not as strong and you prefer a clay lightener, do you think it's important to have their hair clean so it'll lift as light as possible, right? So hot tip right there. I think if you two ladies wanna start balayaging, I would start with a clay lightener. They're the most forgiving. So if your blend isn't on, if your feathering isn't great, they're the most forgiving. If you start with a harsh lightener, like if I had a new stylist start balayaging with Flash Lift, it lifts up to 8 levels and it's very harsh, it's not forgiving. They would have spotties all over. Another great tool is if you're worried about your blending, you can use a blur brush to feather the top of it. Now clay lighteners, I actually haven't used the L'Oreal one, but it's mixed a little different, so I'm gonna mix this one more time. Ours is 1 to 1.5. So I like to put it in grams, so I'm gonna mix a little more for them. And I am terrible at math, just so everybody knows. But this says 14 on here right now. So what's half of 14? 7, okay? So I'm gonna turn this back off, and just so my measuring is perfect, I make it go to 14 first. I could do 21, but I'm kind of a freak that way. And now, 7. Okay, no, it can't. Didn't you hear me say like I normally wouldn't foil with this?
I think I was in the
Oh, yeah, great question, thank you, or great observation. Did you see how sticky that was?
Yeah.
So these are stickier, I actually don't normally foil with it, but they only send us one. So I do a quick demo with it and just tell everyone, I don't normally foil with this, but.
Yeah, I thought when I was reading it, that was one of the things that.
Yep, big no-no. Now, I could take off my hairdresser hat
But we can,
or my
yeah,
redkin hat
right.
for a minute. If I have somebody who wants, if I'm doing like one of my 4 to level 6, 7s, and I maybe don't think I need to glaze them, this is a slower product. I can put a few pieces on or put a few in a foil, and it usually lifts on tone, and I may not have to glaze them. So, and I'm also an owner, so like if I have a stylist that mixed way too much of this and it's sitting on the counter in the back, that just goes ding, money, money. So I'll go get it and then put it in foils. If I am not needing it to go super light. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I technically took off my redkin hat, I shouldn't tell you those things, but I try to be as real as possible sometimes. But yeah, it's not formulated to be foiled. It's a great balayage lightener.
And, I'm sorry that I forgot your name, could you say that so we can watch for when you do after?
Oh, I'm Leanne. Okay, my non-balayage girls, are you ready?
Yep.
Okay.
Nope.
Nope? Okay, so if I wanted to put some highlights just around her face, okay, so quick highlighting method. I'm gonna balayage from the top down, okay? So usually if we're highlighting or balayaging, we're taking some sort of a triangle. Would you agree that that looks like a triangle? Yeah? Okay. So, hot tip with balayage is, if I want my color closer to the scalp, where is my elevation gonna be?
High.
It's gonna be high, right? Because it makes it easier to get to. If I'm working down here, my elevation is gonna be lower. She's a hair high for me right now. Now, if I wanted this to be more of a money piece coming around her face, I just want one point of light right about here, okay? And you really want the hair to be like as smooth as possible. So we want just a little ribbon of color, it's actually too much. So I'm gonna start my first point of entry right here. Now see how tight my tension is? Now I just visually think about, okay, where do I need to start adding more color? Corner of the eye is usually pretty key. Grab a little more. I'm gonna pat, pat, pat right here. So see how creamy that is? If you can't see the hair, you have enough product. If you can see the hair below, you don't have enough product. It's not gonna process all the way. Now I'm gonna slightly just create an angle. I'm gonna cover all of this. Now I need my elevation to come back up. And I'm gonna paint the underneath. What do you notice about my body?
You're moving.
I'm moving, right? Am I standing right behind my section though?
Yes.
I'm off to the side of my section a little bit, right? But now I want this to go all the way through. So I can use my fingers if I had gloves on, or I can use my paddle. My paddle is facing straight at the head so I don't create a line. Now where do I need more product? Do I need it right here?
Because you can see the hair.
Awesome, hot tip, good job. Okay, so I'm gonna grab more product. Now I'm gonna take my board, I'm gonna flip it. Oh look, I can see the bottom.
Did you just say sweet chickens?
Oh, sorry.
Yes, it is.
I thought you said you can use your hands.
Slide one for me.
Okay, so I would get like a bold amount of color right there, right? So, if I needed this to process even more,
Now, wouldn't you get a line right there? Or would you like,
so I could feather this up even more, but do you see those little tiny tails? I won't get a heavy, like a heavy line because it's
Okay.
soft. So I could let that sit there, right? Now if I wanted to do more surface color, I'm gonna take another triangle right here. So now if I have these triangles, do I have a lot of depth? Yeah, right? So now I'm probably gonna do a 2-point, one right here and one right here.
and leave the hair in between? Okay.
This would be my depth in between, but I could naturally just pick this up and do a 1 point in the middle. Does that make sense?
So you do a weave on that one.
You're gonna try it, cause you don't balayage.
Get it?
You're probably a righty though, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll move this to the opposite side.
So do you wanna put that or just that?
That's it, I'm gonna fix that, just a hair for you.
I do that with my next one.
Okay.
Ew, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, sorry, my back hurts.
I'll tip her towards you. So now, if you're closer to the scalp, yep, take your elevation up just a little bit, yep. Good. There, see, nice. Awesome.
This is where I'm trying to be too perfect.
Lots of people do. And the other thing is, so remember how you were like, oh, I saw there might be a line. But if you guys notice, I took my brush and I feathered back, right? So if you feather too much, you're gonna get a transition color. So when it actually was back brushed a little, but I don't want a transition. I want the depth and then the light. Does that make sense? So that's a hot tip. Is if you want it to be bold and you don't want a medium amount of color, don't feather up your product so you're taking it off as much. And then with this, like, see how you can see the hair? It may not process as far as she wants it. So when I first started balayaging, I felt like I had a lot of under processing, and it was things I had to learn along the way, that you're doing a balayage, you really do want that piece to be bold. Most of the time we're using our glazes to put in the melt. The melt doesn't usually come from the balayage. Does that make sense? Can it? Sure, depending on what you're doing it on, but that would be a hot tip, like, how much feathering are you doing to create your transition color?
How did you do that?
Awesome, great. How's she doing so far though?
Great.
Good.
Great.
Okay, so who can walk her through how we turn it? Nope, don't flip yet. So basically you're gonna replace the board with your brush. So yep. So now your brush comes on top, awesome. Just be careful not to roll all the way, because then you'll disturb what's on top.
Oh, gotcha.
Yep, good. So more product.
So is it important to get this creamy enough and not too dry?
Awesome,
Right.
great, yes. Is that a
Okay.
good question? Yes, so if it's too runny, what's gonna happen?
It doesn't.
Awesome, it could be splotchy, it could seep through the hair, right? And also, if it's too runny, it might be not mixed correctly, and you might not get the lift that you want. So,
Is that far enough out?
what'd you just ask?
Is that far enough
Yeah, so is that based on
out? Personal preference.
what you want the look to be, right? So now, if this one's up higher, I'm gonna get a heavier amount of color up here, right? Could it be okay that that one's farther down?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. It just depends on if the area that you're making it go all the way through, she has a lot of shadow and a lot of depth. So she's gonna get more variation. If you want something, I forgot that turned off. If you want something where all of your blonde sits up higher and you only have a little bit of depth, then you wouldn't be out as far, correct? Yes, so it's all about placement as well. So remember, our melt can come from our application as well. So not just our toning of colors, but it can come from our application with the product. Okay, give her a round of applause. Would you like to try too, now that we're here? Nope, you're good? Okay, any questions? So quick face framing, hot tip on how you're gonna melt if you're just doing with a balayage brush, okay? Versus how much product is on there. Now, we're gonna move into a quick color gels and Shades EQ. So this, you guys, why I think this is great right now, I only put a few highlights around her face, but what's gonna happen this time of year? Who's coming in, what are they asking for?
Blonde.
Okay, blonde, is that the color of the season? It's the color of the season,
Well,
yeah.
everybody's like, hair's bright, and they're like, I just want to tone it down for winter.
Yeah.
Or, like, I don't want to be as bright.
Yep.
You know, they want to be bright, but not like white.
Yep, not white, not as bright. I
Not
think the hot
summer
tip
white.
is everybody, by this time, their hair starts to feel like we didn't have a great summer here though, but normally people are just super dry this time of year, so they wanna tone it down. Now, I still think blonding services are so hot right now, but people are coming in and they're looking to tone down their blonde. So we're gonna work with color gels, which is my favorite right now, and Shades EQ, because they're meant to go together. and they have a lot of the same color families. Like you have NW and color gels, you have NW and Shades EQ, you have GBs and color gels, NBs, blah, blah, blah. So if you guys I'm gonna have you take 2 minutes while I clean up my bowls, cause I'm gonna have to have 3 for this next technique. I want you to take, just a few minutes and talk about like some of the problems that you may be encountering with balayage right now. Cool, in the salon, any problems?
Will you go over the good gray toners or silver?
Yep, we can talk about that too.
The only problem
Nobody
with
has
it
any
is
problems.
chlorine.
I'm just trying to pick which one I wanna say out loud.
They're all okay, all of your problems are good to just put them
That was a
on
good
here.
one.
It's the well water.
Well, waters.
I couldn't even penetrate through mine, and she would use the cleanser and stuff at home, and all that stuff before.
Oh, that one girl, yeah. Well, it's like on
And
Julie's daughter, when I balayaged her hair, it lifted like 2 levels with 40 vol after processing for 45 minutes.
So horrible.
It was just so,
It's so bad.
green and build up, and her hair didn't even feel that bad, and it was virgin hair.
That's the hard part.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can't
I
feel
think
it.
mine is just
The
40
the mellow, on my
That's
side, you could
awesome.
see the sheen.
I think
You should
probably
use that
doing
well,
pre-treatments
yeah.
and
Yeah.
holding off on the color
She used it
until
like
their
I made her use it
hair
like the whole,
Yeah.
like week before.
is ready
It did
for
get
it
rid of it
too.
at home.
Yeah.
Huh.
Now next time I'm
Yeah.
just gonna put thinted
And
oils.
even when I
because
did it in
sometimes you
salon
don't
under the
know.
dryer and
Oh,
everything,
you don't know
it's
how to
still
tell
does not take
you.
it out.
Yeah.
You do it, and if they aren't truthful.
Yeah, oh, yes, that
Yeah.
too. I actually even had someone have like a small combustion from all the minerals in it.
The smoking coils.
Yeah,
Oh my god.
and it was well water.
I'm used to
Yeah.
that.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
no, I'm
so
like,
good.
okay, we have to stop immediately. I'm like, are you sure you don't have sun in or anything? She's like, nope. I'm like, they are on well water, so. Cause she had
I'm
just
on well
had her, huh?
You
You're
are?
on well water?
I am, but she's gonna,
You
use
use
the ball
that?
stuff.
Do you use anything for
Do
it?
you
I
have
have
a
a
filter?
couple, well, I do, but it needs to be changed, so basically, I'll say no. But I do have a couple of the Malibu packets
The
at
hard
home
water.
The Malibu is
that we could
the
do
best.
beforehand, the hard water packets.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah,
I'll have to bring them in the
Not
salon
your
to do
hair.
it.
So not do it
yeah.
at home, cause what's the point?
They do have like little shower filters that you can buy like on Amazon for cheap.
So that's what I have right now, I just need to replace out the filter.
Do you not have a softener and like at your well, or is it just an old well?
I'm not sure.
Because
You can
there's
add one
salt
on
water.
it, yeah.
Yeah, you just get salt and you can get it
Thank
from
you, Kayla.
the tractor place, that's where we were getting ours.
Oh.
And it's just like a huge thing of salt, and what it does is it just filters.
And
through it.
balances the pH too.
Yeah.
And you just dump it in the well, or
Well,
where you?
there's a certain system that you have to dump it
Oh, okay.
into, so
Okay.
you could maybe
Whoever
look at your well.
maintains like your well,
Yeah,
they probably know.
yeah, or sometimes, well, we did our own, every, like, I think 6 months, they would come out and make sure our system was still working, but, like, we had to do it every couple months to keep it,
Okay.
and it would keep your toilets and
Now I see
everything.
another pair of
Yeah,
scissors.
so that's
And your
such a struggle.
laundry, like the whites,
Yes. Oh, yeah, we don't even clean that bleach.
yeah.
We just hope it lasts.
Yeah, okay, so, what have you guys come up with so far? Like, what have we heard?
They're talking about well water, cause it's prevalent in our area.
Okay, in Enumclaw?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. You're fine, next one.
Yeah.
Okay, so, like,
Even
what's
with-
happening?
So even with my clients doing the treatments at home, cause talking about prep,
Yeah,
it still would not penetrate the
okay,
hair. And it was still on their hair.
so these would be like your blondes, right?
Yes.
Okay,
And they were virgins.
so is it turning like dingy?
It's not lifting. So even though we did the prep and it was clean hair, it still is not lifting. It only lifted like a couple levels.
With lightener?
Yes.
So are you trying to get them like uber blonde?
Well, yeah.
Have
She
you
was
ever-
like a natural like 7, what, she was a younger girl,
Yeah.
and so.
Have you ever tried color instead of lightener?
Like a highlight.
Yeah,
Oh, on, instead
especially if they're natural. Yeah, because sometimes because the color has the tone in it and bleach doesn't, sometimes on like well water hair or people who have thicker hair, bleach only kind of like breaks it down. It doesn't like give it any tone, whereas if you're using a high lift, sometimes you can kick out what's in there because there's already color in the bottle that you're using. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I would try that, because sometimes if you open the cuticle up with the lightener, then you try to tone it, it can't grab because it already has the well water in there, which is already kind of a tone. Whereas if you can lift and kick it out with color, you might not even have to tone. It might be worth trying.
Yeah.
It's just like if you have people who, when they come back in, their blonde always looks like dingy and flat. Say they work out a lot or they do hot yoga, so they're blonde. It doesn't really need to be lifted. It's just that it starts to look dingy because of all the salt and the exercise. Instead of putting lightener on to try to make it bright again, try to use like Chromatics Clear with 20 volume, or Shades EQ. They have in the cream, they have a clear. You can mix those with 20 volume, and what it does is it breaks down the dinginess for the color that's gotten in the hair, instead of lightener. Sometimes the lightener has reverse effects. I know it sounds weird, but because there's already color in the tube, sometimes it lifts and tones.
Right.
And it's more gentle.
Yeah.
So just an option. Okay, anything else? What about, like you guys brought up, what do we charge for this, right? What are we charging for like color melting services if we've had to highlight?
The highlight plus.
I feel like there's so many different
That's the
ways
color.
too, like that's the word I always get, like there's so many different techniques.
Yep, so where should we have this conversation with them though?
In the consultation.
In the consultation, right? So we can't just assume that they have $300 to drop today on that service, right? So we have to figure out what is their beauty budget, right? So we ask them in the beginning, what is their beauty budget? Maybe they don't have time to do a traditional, like real color melt and make it look like the picture. So are you gonna shortchange them and Shades EQ them at the bowl? Is that gonna cost you less, right? You're still kind of using the same amount of product. You're just shortchanging them,
Yeah.
right? So you have to be able to tell them why, like, it's still gonna I still have to charge you the same amount for product, but basically your service will be less because it's not taking me as long. So your service today is more based on my time. So if you really want it to look like the picture, I need more time to perform this. Does that make sense? So they have to be the one that decides how much time they have and what their beauty budget is. But remember to always talk about that at the beginning. And then, like, be realistic. Do some of these looks take a few visits to get to?
Yes.
Yeah, right? So have that conversation with them and set them up at the beginning with the products that they need for the in-between times, so that when they come back, you don't have to pre-treat them, so that they're taking care of their hair in between. If it's gonna take you 4 visits to get them there, set them up from that at the beginning and actually pre-schedule them. And allow them the time they need without double booking, but make sure to pre-schedule them. Cause otherwise they won't stay on a plan, and they may extend it, and then they went 6 months instead of 3 months, and now when they come back in, you're starting all over again, and they don't understand. So have the conversation at the beginning. Okay, so we talked a lot about everybody is going darker now, right? Which is actually one of my favorite things, because I think services are way quicker right now. Realistically, instead of everything taking so long. But you still want it to be a creative color. You don't just wanna slap a root color on and then one shades formula, right? And it's all about, you guys wanted some methods. So we have to think about how to apply the color and keep it creative. So a really easy way is we're gonna put color gels on zone 1, but I'm gonna do like a zigzag parting. So I'm basically gonna find like where the head changes direction, so where my comb leaves the head, and I'm gonna just kind of zigzag out the crown. Why would I zigzag out the crown? Yeah, it's a softer blend, right, when it falls. I'm sitting around the parietal ridge, so the hair on top is really what moves, right? The hair down below kind of stays put, would you agree? Yeah, right, because gravity is pulling it down. So my focal areas need to be what sits on top. I do the zigzag because it's a softer blend, but it also helps me stay in the areas where the hair lives, and it makes it easier for me to have like good application. So I still would want to separate out my sides so that I get the amount of hair living in front of the shoulders. Okay, I'm gonna start in the front just for time purposes. Oh, good, more gloves. Okay, I have another really cool tool too, because I am a creature of using the right things to create a good outcome. Has anybody seen the new Color Gels brushes? These are so nice for gel color. So I don't know what color line you're all using, but if you have a gel color, the bristles are fatter, kind of, so it holds the color in more place. Whereas I feel like when I use these,
Just like
it slips, right? And we all know that gel color is messier. So this is my dark, this is my medium, and this is my light, okay? So I'm going from a 5 to a 7 to a 9. So just a really easy transition. Okay, so I'm gonna start on the side. Now she's a little low. And I'm gonna separate out my front left quadrant. So I'm starting on the back side first. And I'm applying my zone 1 color around my zigzag. When I get in a small area, I just use a narrow part of my brush instead of the whole thing. Now, she's still gonna want some sort of highlight here. I'm not touching that yet, okay? So I'm gonna go right into parting this off. What's my section? Diagonal forward or diagonal back? Why do you think I'm doing diagonal back? Awesome, away from the face. It makes it easier for application, but also a hot tip, when I drop it back down, it makes it easier for me to apply, like if I want more shadow or more light. Whereas if I took a straight across horizontal section, it's harder for me to find that angle. So these are like, aren't these like just little nuances that you're like, that seems so dumb? But actually it can totally change your outcome.
It's more like it makes more sense.
Yeah.
You're working
Well,
smarter,
thanks.
not harder.
Yes, there you go, working smarter, not harder. So I'm applying totally away from the face. Now when I get closer to right around her face, this is where you become the creative colorist, right? So she may have gray hair and she may not like it to look like it's color built up right there. So I could switch to my medium formula because I have shades, so it's gonna blend my gray. So I had color gels, now I'm moving to shades. I am just making this softer right here, okay? If she had resistant hair, I may mix a small little batch of formula that's a little bit lighter than my color gels formula if she needed it more permanent, okay? So hot tip on that. Now it makes it easier for me to grab the second area of my hair, right, where I'm gonna work. So now for me, I may want a little more depth sitting on top right there. Now it's the bottom section. Now color gels and Shades EQ are friends, so they can blend together. Whereas if I had city beads and color gels, I'd have a little like transition spot because they don't love each other, okay? Or what if I was using lightener I put my zone 1 color on, and then I was using lightener down here. Is my lightener and my permanent color friends? No, right? So when they meet, what happens? They make a third color. So now you're creating a color melt where you didn't want it, and you might have something you have to counteract in between. So that's a hot tip as well. So now I'm applying and I'm moving back up my section, so I'm keeping it cleaner, right? So that one was light. I may take this one, if I'm adding color back in, I may take all of this darker. So she starts to have more depth. But then she's like, I still want my ends light, right? So now I just switch to my lighter color. Now, I could also take these more vertically, right? So instead of like a diagonal back section, which is softer and rounder, I may take my color more vertically placement, so I get more almost panel-y looking of dark. Does that make sense? Or more panel looking of light, however I want to apply it. But so my color melt can be done just as easily as me changing my sections. Cool? So now this one, oops, we have one more. This one I'm gonna do light as well. Now whenever I get to a protected area, I always wipe off my hands, so I always have a towel. Now I'm gonna take, I left it in the sink. I'll take this little brush. So she still wants to be pretty light in a money piece, okay? So I'm gonna do just a tiny bit of root color right at her zone 1, so that her depth matches through the entire head, right? So I'm not changing her zone 1 formula. Now remember how I said she could be really gray? So I may have to take just a little bit of my zone 2 formula right here just to soften that. Now, with Shades EQ, another hot tip is, if I put this color, even if I use my lighter or my medium color, if I put this solid through the whole thing and left it on the full processing time, would there be any dimension? If it was a lighter shade, I'd have dimension, but if I put the same formula on everything and covered it roots to ends, would I have the same dimension? No, right? So another way to create dimension is don't pull the color all the way through everything. Does that make sense? So I would switch to my lighter formula through here, because she still wants more of a money piece, right? But then I still want it really poppy towards the bottom. So I'm gonna leave that out until like maybe the last 5 minutes, and then I may go over it. Does that make sense? So see how you can create your own level of color or blur or melt just by altering your application. Now, I could do lots of things through the top, right? I could take almost this whole thing dark, right? I could take this whole thing my medium color so that I only have variations sitting on the bottom. Does that make sense? So if I took this and covered everything like my medium color, she'd have lots of movement underneath because I altered, but then the top would still look darker, but it would be soft. Does that make sense? So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do zone 1, so now I'm just gonna separate out my opposite side, and I'm gonna do zone 1 with my permanent color. And then I'm gonna put zone 2 on everything else. so let's talk about, formulas. What are some things you guys may be struggling with? And maybe some hot tips on some colors that you're looking for to try that you've never tried before. I heard somebody ask for gray.
The silver
Yeah.
toners.
Okay, awesome. Silvery gray toners. So let's do this. First, let's talk about what are you using to try to get the silvery gray? Are you using shades?
I've used shades, the 09P and the V and then the T.
Okay, awesome. So let's start this way. If you guys take your books and you open up to page, I'm gonna try to guess off the top of my head, 192. Let's see how close I am.
Cream or do you want?
Did it wind up on cream? Okay, so one page before that. Oh my gosh, I was so close.
Yeah.
Okay, 190. Here's your shades lesson, okay? And we're all gonna work together. Make sure you're by somebody that you can see, okay? So look across the top of the Shades EQ chart. We talked about it earlier when we talked about what's unique to Redken. What do you guys see along the top?
Background colors.
Okay, awesome. Background colors, right? Okay, so on the left, we have what background? Black to gray, awesome. What's in the middle? Brown to tan, awesome. What's on the far right?
Red violet.
Nothing.
Awesome, no background color. So see, black to gray, brown to tan, and no background.
Okay.
Okay, now if you guys want a cheat sheet too, I would take your phone out and take a picture of the top of this, so you can refer if you're ever struggling with tone. Okay, if she has one, awesome. Now, if you look at the very top, it's actually gonna tell you your primary tone, your secondary tone, or just one. So everybody look at the WG family. So we know it's in brown to tan. What's our primary tone? So draw your finger all the way to the top. Okay, awesome. What do we see first?
Yellow.
Okay, and then orange? Okay, so let's go to the GI family. What's our primary tone? So GI is gonna be gold, and then you see violet, right? Okay, so now let's do the NB family. What are you gonna see first?
Red.
And then what? Okay, so remember how I said the NB sometimes don't look just brown like you'd think, like 6NB should be brown, right? Like a warm brown, but it's like it's a violety brown, so it's almost a little cooler, could look mauve. So when we talk about silver, where should we be living when we're trying to make silver?
Black to gray.
Awesome, good start right there, black to gray. What are some of my choices?
T, B,
A, B, G, and B.
Okay, so we know a hot tip is we need to be in the black to gray, right? Okay, and what are some of my choices? Obviously T, because it's straight silver, right? So T. But what else? Is gray only silver? Like, think about all the levels of gray. You like P? Okay, so in P, what's our primary tone? Blue violet, right? So it's gonna be more of a bluey gray. If we use a T, we're gonna be more of a silvery gray. Could we mix? Yeah. Now, when we talk about silver, do you just want formulas, or are you struggling a little bit getting it?
No, I like formulas.
Okay, so a classic one for like a light gray is just gonna be 9T plus 9B plus equal clear. That's like on a really light gray. So if I'm taking, a lot of times we're taking clients back to gray now. So if we can get them light enough, this is like a classic formula for them, okay? Another one that is actually really pretty is 9V plus 9P plus clear.
Why do you add the clear?
Great question. Why would I add the clear?
It's not so.
Awesome. So this only goes to level 9. We have 10V now and 10N. For me, I actually firmly believe that gray, if it's not a white gray, it's gonna sit somewhere around a level 8. I like gray sitting at an 8, but on porous hair, if I put a 9 and I want an 8, it'll be level on level, but it'll appear darker if the hair is porous. So I add the crystal clear to dilute my formula. Cool? Now, a lot of times, we can't just put this on hair unless it's neutral, right? So people that are struggling to get the perfect gray may have to do like 2 tones, right? So this is where sometimes people will tone at the bowl for a few minutes to counteract any unwanted warmth.
So then could you go in and tone first with like a V to kind of cancel out any
You're-
yellow and then go, cause I always worry
Awesome.
about turning green, but just flipping straight to your B because I'm like, well, I don't want this to turn green.
Awesome, great. So normally it would only turn green if she saw what still in the hair?
Yellow,
Or
gold,
orangey,
orangey.
right? Depending on what you use. So yes, hot tip is you pre-tone to get the correct color that you're looking for. So if you see yellow, you want to counteract that. But you also may need to balance it. So sometimes we may need to balance it by adding a little N. So 9N plus 9T or 9N plus 9V. You want to neutralize it and make it balanced first. Does that make sense? Then you can put your color on top. So a lot of times we say, what's in the bowl? So we look at what the hair is at, and we may have to get rid of that first, and then go back and make our second color. Cool? It's just like if we're taking these clients right now, darker, so we may color melt them by a certain technique right now, but depending on the porosity of the hair, do you think they may look a little flat? Yeah, because if we're doing a color melt right now back into the hair, do we take time to fill it all the way? So sometimes our first color glaze or our application is like our filler. And then we may need to go over the whole thing one more time with 1 or 2 colors to close it back down and give it the richness and the luster that it needs. So it's just like when we're trying to make a color, you have to think about what the hair texture is like, right? Sometimes it needs 2 overlays to really get the depth or the luster that it needs. Cool? Okay, what are some other formulas? Now that you have this litho chart in front of you, if you didn't know what was in the base, like this will open a whole new door for you. What else are you guys kind of looking for right now? You want some good chocolaties?
Always.
I know, you like dark hair too. Okay, so I feel like everyone is starting to first go more browny copper. So the reason I choose color gels at the top with 10 volume is so that I get more depth. I can do it all with Shades EQ, but it fades a little faster because I'm not penetrating the cuticle layer of the hair. It's living on the surface. So for me, most of the time, I'm always gonna start with color gels. So brown, like a brown copper in color gels would be like 6CB plus 4NN plus 10 volume. So the NN is just gonna be a heavier amount of brown. So I'm gonna get more depth. So I have the copper brown, because do we have a CB in Shades EQ? Yeah, right? So now I could do for like zone 2 or 3, I could do like 6CB, I should go gels, 6CB Shades EQ, I could do this by itself, and then I might move to 6GI plus 8V to keep my ends more balanced on the ends. Because would you agree that if you have somebody who's been more of like a warm blondie tan through the summer and now they want to move into more copper tones, if you take them too coppery all over, what are they going to feel? Orange, right? So we want to keep some balance in their blonde. So the GI and the V's are great together because it's a very balanced gold. A good like rich brown. So I do color gels, 4NW plus 4N plus 10 vol, and then Shades EQ, 4NB plus 4WG plus a 4th clear. This is like an amazing chocolate brown. But I think what makes it is actually the base. Cool? Any questions? Okay, so now in your groups, what you guys are gonna do, and you actually really have to do this, I'm gonna give you a flip chart, okay? And you're going to each take a pen and a piece of paper, which I think somebody still has my other pen over there. And I want you guys to write out, so we'll do group 1 over here, group 2 over here. You're gonna write out as a whole what you're gonna take back to the salon and what you're gonna try. And it has to be something different than you normally do, right? Cool, so like 5 minutes. But actually, like, get up, go over to your flip charts.
Can I have that?
It just doesn't, what do you guys take away?
But then I was moving out of our boxes. Try new things.
We have 3 groups.
Alright, starting with blush.
Oh, wait.
Yes.
Clients and maybe we just start with things break.
What else in the chat?
Using gels for I don't.
You guys are group
It
2.
is smudge or whatever. Oh yeah, definitely. We should get some of those. Do you need it?
Are you
writing a novel, Jess?
You just write all this stuff.
What do you need?
Full of ideas.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Can I just put check on you too?
I wanna try that.
Oh, yeah. Are you writing just everything down?
Just like everything, we're taking all.
we're taking
all-
some and put it on the door.
Overachiever.
Oh, yeah, I don't even think I brought my purse. You can message me through Instagram. I'm like, I didn't bring my purse in. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. No, totally. Let's see. Let me add you. Well, here, let me find you on Instagram.
It's right.
What's your Insta?
No, but not because of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did that.
right now, then you have my info.
Definitely application.
Oh, I wanna try.
Just
I don't know how to use a clean lighter at all.
Thank goodness for technology, right? Yeah.
Do you wanna try it on my hair?
Customizing color doesn't try to be too soft. Yes. Needs a smiley face.
I'm surprised
A lot.
like, oh yeah, it's good.
Oh,
It's a long list.
Okay, so now, oh, they're still not working.
That's the same with hair cutting, like we talked about, when it's
Body
different
position.
places where you're standing can make some.
Did you get those, are those Steve Madden's? They're actually Blondos.
I don't know, I haven't even checked yet, but I had two.
They're one
Each?
Well, I'm like.
Trucker. What a waste of my points.
Thank you. I have the Echoes that kind of look like that, but they're not waterproof.
No,
And then I bought a Steve Madden.
I have a toddler, so
Well, and it rains around
wet
all the
things on
time.
my feet.
Awesome.
Just like, wanna brush them off.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so wait, group one, tell us all about what you have on your sheet.
Pre-treating the hair,
Okay,
definitely don't do that at all.
okay.
So, yeah. And I've always been told that
Don't-
dirtier hair, the better
No.
when you come in.
Yeah, so
So,
that's what, to be honest, I mean, for, how old are you?
37,
How long have you been doing hair?
about 6 years.
Oh geez, not very long. Okay, well then you should be actually learning it this way. But I was always taught dirty hair, dirty hair, dirty hair.
Me too.
But it's just, I mean, we want healthy products, it's just they don't work as well on dirty hair. So that's awesome. It will change the way you see color though, to be honest.
Okay. Yeah, using gels as the root. So, yeah, I've just been doing it like I had mentioned earlier, like
Yeah.
the foil, and I did not learn this anywhere, but watching a Redken gal on
Yeah.
Instagram. So that's
cool.
kind of how I just started doing
Yeah,
it.
and you can, just remember, you can always use shades to do your root. It's just, a lot of times you don't always, you get done and then you're like, geez, I don't really have the punch or the depth that I was looking for, especially if it's on wet hair.
Okay. Yeah, those brushes. So that little brush.
Cool.
kinda
The edge
cool to
brush,
get one of those, the
yeah.
edge brush,
Yep.
yeah. Using the 3 different formulas.
Awesome.
And of course, Courage, you come in with clean hair. Vertical application. I always do everything horizontal. I don't know about you guys, but so I'm kind of excited about that
Lots
one.
of people do.
Yeah.
You guys, if you start your root color application as well, so like I always go diagonally when I'm in the front, but a lot of times on the sides, especially if they wear it off their face, I go vertically and it moves so quick. So just like take it and try it. When I first did it, I was like so uncomfortable, but now it's like so much faster that way. So that's a hot tip, so try it.
Body placement.
Awesome.
And then, yeah, trying clear lighteners.
I love it. You guys, body positioning is so key too. And even I am not a designer, like I don't teach that, but I teach it in my salon to all my newbies. And realistically, even in a blow dry, it sounds so weird, but hairdressers always have shoulder problems, right? Like we're like this all day long. But if you're blow drying and you're like back here and you're like trying to reach over them, it's even hard. So you always want to be either right in front of your section or open to your section. Cool? Awesome. Nice takeaway. Okay, group 2.
Read it off, Jess.
Oh, God, you guys.
Obviously blow drying now before we kind of apply our shades if we want it to last longer, but depending on the client.
Good.
Taking different sections, so not just the traditional horizontal, so vertical.
Cool.
Hair prep, trying to train our clients before, and also just letting them know that it's gonna be extra time. Using gels and shades together. I kind of figured you always could, but I haven't really ever tried it.
They're sisters.
Trying the new brushes.
Awesome.
I think a lot of it is how to present it to your clients too, so I liked some of the ideas that you had for us. Not just keeping it a very like flat color application, just making sure that they know like there's other things that they can do to
add depth or create different looks based on, even if they wanna be more all over solid.
Awesome.
Customizing your color based on your client's end result, so kind of same thing. And then body placement, I thought that was huge for us.
Cool.
Because I'm constantly breaking my back, and I should make my client work for me, not me work for my client.
Yes, awesome. And just remember, like, if they had to sit in front of a computer all day, right? And they were only given one spot to have their computer, like lots of people have stand up, sit down desks now. But if they were given one spot and it was way over here, right? How functionable is that? Like their chair's over here if it didn't turn and they have to work like that. You just tell them, like, you may be uncomfortable for a few minutes, but once I'm done with this, you'll be fine. Okay? And it really is, I need the end result to come out right. So really be aware of your body and even where the hair is when you're highlighting. Because a lot of times, and this is for me too, if I haven't sectioned it exactly where it's gonna live, I get done and then I'm like, why is there not enough blonde in the front? Or why didn't the dark come down to the shoulders? Well, my angle was probably off and I didn't have the hair where it naturally lives. So those are important. So awesome, you guys did good. I do have a question for you. By a show of hands, how many of you have way too many clients and you don't need any more?
Way too many that you don't need?
Yeah. Or way too many clients that you can't take
I
new
have way
clients?
too many that I don't need, like, if I could fire them and get new ones.
I was gonna say don't want.
I would never turn people away.
Yes, but, okay, now by a show of hands, how many of you are looking for new clients?
Always and forever.
Okay, great. So how many of you are utilizing your Instagram?
Trying to be
Not
better.
as much as I'd like to.
Yeah.
I'm
Better.
running to right now.
Okay, you
I
guys.
know, I do.
No, totally fine. This is for all of us. So we, in my salon, I just my front desk girl / little helper partner just left to raise goats and make goat milk and make cheese or whatever. So I'm back to doing everything and I miss her, but I decided, so I have all these stylists and I look at their books and they're growing, but we suck at social media. And we don't suck in a way like, we do it. We should be more consistent, but our pages aren't clean. So I hired somebody to clean up our stuff and make it uniform. So anywhere you go now, everything is on social media, right? So I didn't think it was as important, even though people push it down my throat and Redken pushes it down our throat, but it actually really is. So a takeaway would be like, I think it's so cool you guys are working together and you're in the same salon. So before we leave, we're gonna get a group picture. Post that, but make sure everybody posts it today. And a hot tip is tag the salon that you're at. So whenever you post something, post your salon. Because other people, I'm just learning this, I'm learning new things, but somebody else that follows your salon may not follow you, but they follow the salon and then your stuff will pop up. So it draws more attention to that salon. So when I ask how many of you need new clients, this is something as a group, it's one more freaking job that we have to have, but start trying to be more conscientious of how you post if you're looking for more clients. Try to find like 6 colors that you're all gonna use. So do you guys have business cards? Do they all look alike even though you're self-employed? Kind of.
They all have a symbol.
Okay, so maybe that symbol you could take on all your posts, just something to relate you guys, because you want to draw them to your salon, right?
Yeah.
Even though you're independents, wouldn't you much rather have the business in your salon than
Isn't it all
someplace
about like
else?
creating an aesthetic, like
Yes.
a uniform aesthetic? for
Yes, so like ours, we were a hot mess. But now we're we have somebody that is running it for the next 3 months and she's gonna clean it up. There's like templates she's making for us. Now you're independent, so you don't have to go that far, but try to always tag your salon. That way it's bringing more viewers and more followers to you guys, which helps grow each one of you. Now say, you might be booked solid, but you may have an opening. They couldn't get in with her, so she could say, oh, my friend Sarah or whatever is open, right? So it's just keeping them in there to you. So remember, if you can't get somebody in, even though you're self-employed and maybe you don't have a receptionist or a front desk, give them the info of the person next to you that may have an opening. Cool? Okay, so now I would love for you guys to do me a favor. Who has iPhones?
I think, yeah, most people.
If you guys have a
Me.
phone,
Everyone but
I need you
Kylie.
guys to do a survey for today. If you have an Android, I'll give you the, app that you can go to. But if you open your camera and just hold it over this, it will take you right. Yep, so click on that, on top. It might be in your Safari, cause I saw it open. Oh, no, it's not. Okay, click on that. There you go, now it's opening for you. And then, yeah, if you guys could click on that. And then after you're done, we're gonna do a hands in the middle and a group pick. And it might be slow if you're not on the Wi-Fi. Oops.
I'm honestly the only one without an iPhone in here.
It's okay, it happens. Not very often. You know why though?
I switched. I was over them.
Because of the updates?
I just hate them, yeah.
That's so funny. I had to work yesterday and my client just did an update and she was cussing the whole time in my chair. Okay, so you wanna type in that, which is long, but HTT. Thanks you guys for taking a few minutes to do this. HTTPS. Those lines.
Survey?
Yep, survey.
I'm reading this off.
Dot
We could've
com.
done this Needham claw.
I know, right, with all of it? That'd be cool.
Slash little r slash big B big W 55 G
Oh, there it is.
and 6.
Does the GN6 matter if it's all caps? Okay. SurveyMonkey.com.
Let's see if it opens.
Oh. It says right
Did
here,
everybody's
so
open?
no.
Oh yeah, it just takes 10 years if you're not on the Wi-Fi. I think yours is coming. Yep, it is. Sweet. Get a picture.
How often do you do the color classes? Or are they broken out into like shades, EQ, gels, or is it
So
all
there'll be a
together?
calendar. I don't think I have anything else here. I have Eastern Washington all the time. But I do in-salon classes too. Let's see what else I have in here.
I know. That's what I was saying.
Let's see.
Hmm.
The Color Bash one is November 11th.
Oh, I'm at Tacoma for shades next month. And then, let me see if I have that one. I never know off the top of my, was that the 11th? Oh, maybe I do have this Color Bash. Nope, I have Tacoma. Oh no, I have Olympia.
What's today's date?
23rd.
I know. If Joshua, he might have it, she might know who has it. Joshua's really good too.
The one, Lynn, it says Lynn.
Oh, she was supposed to be this one too.
Oh.
I'm not supposed to say anything negative.
No.
It would just be, it'd be slower.
Okay, okay. I like this.
She's good though. She's very knowledgeable.
Nips.
They just always tell me here, I make people engage and move.
I like that. Okay.
Okay, once everybody's done, what should our word be? Body placement or body positioning. I feel like that was on everyone's. Yeah? And then we'll have her take a group picture of us. Everybody done? All right,
That's still Caroline.
let's go over here, hands in the middle.
They have a L'Oreal professional acrylic piece. Oh, gosh.
When's that, Drive?
That's Monday, October 7th.
7th?
Yes.
October 7th.
So like in 2 weeks?
Yeah.
And isn't that our SNAP meeting?
Oh, yeah, right here. Yep.
But, yeah, I'm yeah. Yeah, I would love to.
Was it mine? Mine are always disgusting. You mean our group pic?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll have, Christy do it, if she has time.
Well, my screen's shattered.
Oh, no. Come on, girls.
What?
Oh,
Oh,
no,
I-
it can't be any worse than this, honey.
I'm close.
I sometimes wear them.
Depends on what I do.
try. I'm supposed to.
I like wearing sweaters.
Okay, on the count of 3, it's gonna be body positioning, okay? 1, 2, 3.
Body positioning.
Woo! Christy.
I'm sorry, this time's here. I should have just brought some of my mannequins that are still in the closet.
Oh, wow.
School.
You guys worked on that. Yeah.
Thank you.
On this bond in the background. Ask her.
Yeah, I'm Tyler now. She's done with bleach.
Let's get a group pic, and then I think you guys need to have a salon pic. I got a place pic.
I'm just leaving it in here for now.
Leave it here?
Yeah.
We're missing two. Sean's pictures, guys.
Oh, she wants pictures, yay.
Caitlin back at McDonald's?
She's at Hot Jacks.
Maybe it was longer than I thought it was when I saw her.
It was a while ago, but now she's in college.
Oh, she is?
Yeah, she's going to Pierce right now, then she's gonna transfer, cause she's gonna be a physical therapist.
Oh.
Like 7 years of college.
Well, good for her though.
Yeah.
It's a good goal.
Yeah.
What's Harrison doing?
He is, still racing, so he's gonna leave here, but he's gonna get into construction and he's not sure if he wants to be an electrician or a welder.
Is he going back to Arizona?
He is
Yeah.
for after Christmas for a couple months to train, and then he's gonna become a pro and then whatever.
Yeah.
And then Leo's like,
Leo.
middle schooler
Leo.
now.
Leo. He's in middle
Oh,
school.
well,
Yeah.
we must be talking about somebody. Is anybody in there?
Yeah.
Oh, there is? Oh, well, we'll wait till they come out. I don't know, I'll have to see.
He started high school. Yeah.
So crazy.
Icy
Colton stuff.
or,
It's crazy.
yeah, I'll have to look at it, but a lot of times, like a really pretty toner right now is 10VV,
Yeah.
10N, and clear. It's a very pastel-y, beautiful blonde.
I just told him, you just need to separate yourself from girls, period, right now, because,
But maybe yellow,
yeah.
but just think if you have gold, you have to counteract that a little bit if you don't wanna see it. Half the N, which the N will counteract a little bit of gold, but it just depends on how light you are. Like if you've only really lifted them to an 8, you can't use that formula to counteract them more. They have to actually be lifted to like
10.
well, 9 or 10, yeah.
So if,
Hello. We're waiting to look at a poster.
Oh, okay.
You're due tomorrow? Hey, Mr. Say she wanted to know the blonde in the bathroom, and she said there's a blonde in the bathroom.
Yeah.
See you later.
Yeah. that'd
You
be fun.
could do
Okay.
shades with that, but see how it's still really bright?
Right.
So if a
I wanna
blonde
ask
is
her a
really
question on
bright, a lot of times I think it would come with color. So like I'll have some. And if you get stuck with a little residual color, you can lift and deposit. So here, I'll show you.
Oh.
Warm.
And she.
What are you, but you're bleaching her? Like a bleaching brush?
Oh, I should probably do that. I might as well in here.
This is one of my clients. I was thinking of the dioxin hair girl stuff, but then I seen this.
Oh.
I know, I feel like the new one does, but we almost need to wait till the new one comes out because it doesn't have the new level 10s in there.
Oh, then yeah. Or we just need a poster, maybe I don't need a whole book.
Lindsay, Susan, or Rug, or both.
Is anybody bringing like teenage kids?
Anybody, you can.
I should ask Kai if she wants to go or if she wants to make something.
God, my mom and my sister, please call me when you get it done. I'm like, I am in class. I'll call you guys later. Please call us. I'm like, what are you asking? When he goes, does Trina care if it says Salon Bonita sideways or Salon Bonita stacked? I'm pretty sure she doesn't care. What do you think would be the better on a rug? Salon Bonita?
Yeah.
Maybe stacked.
Or
But sure, she doesn't care.
is she doing one for this salon?
She's gonna do, I have canceled, I had that appointment today. And I called 3 times to cancel it and left them messages, no call back, and they just sent me another reminder at 1:10. I left 3 messages.
travel down the hill.
Usually they start with a quart, but the more porous and the lighter it is, then more pure in the formula and less tough. Yeah. And a way to tell is start less clear first. If it's not counteracting, just put it on, you let it sit, then go back and add more in, and then that drops your clear. Usually, and if there's orange, is a great way to balance it, if there's some sort of orange. Okay? You're welcome.
Leanne, right? Yeah, that was great. I need to come to like a class of order.
Everybody should. It's so good for us. It's
Well,
really
just
good for
get
us.
stuck in our
Brett? Mm-hmm.
what's been doing and then trying to, you know, I wanna pursue confidence with people I've been doing for 30 years to change them up, you know, and
Yep, because we get bored. I'm glad you guys were here though.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. It was great.
I know, most of mine, like 90% of mine are cover fusion people, so that.
Oh, Cover Fusion is great too. I just, I went back to color gels more. We use Cover Fusion in my salon as well.
Okay,
But it's only 2 levels that it moves. Like you can only technically lift 2 levels. But I always feel like it doesn't have a lot of light reflection. It's almost kind of fakey looking. It doesn't have as much richness, light reflection, luster, especially on coarse hair.
so I might need to explore the color just more.
Maybe a little. You know what is a good way to try? Like if you're using 5NN and Cover Fusion, grab 5NN and color gels and just put it in the back half on one side underneath.
And that'd be fun.
And then you use shades and that would, since they marry,
But I mean, nobody would really know.
Yeah,
You're
check it out.
testing it.
Yeah.
That way you can see the difference.
Thank
I mean, you're welcome. Have a
Thank you
great
so
day,
much.
girls.
you too.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
You're fine. Don't be sorry. Okay, the edge brush, I think she can order. They're not in all the stores, so she might have to order it too. Redken, Bank Salon. Oh, here, now let's see if my phone works right.
So ours doesn't, we don't have an active Instagram.
Oh, you don't?
Yeah, I was thinking my husband. Is it Leanne with the I, like?
It's LeeAnn. And then REDKEN. Right there on top.
Okay.
Thanks. Yeah. All right. Bye, you guys.